Hello and welcome back to AP Bio Simplified. Today we're going over photosynthesis. So what is photosynthesis? Basically, it's how plants make food from light, and it all happens in the chloroplast. Here's the big equation. Carbon dioxide and water and light energy produces glucose and oxygen gas. That's the overall process, and there are two main stages. Light-dependent reactions is the one that takes place in a thylakoid membrane and make energy. Calvin cycle, also called the light-independent reactions, happens in the stroma and uses that energy to build glucose. Now let's start with the light reactions. They happen on the thylakoid membrane, and the inputs are light, water, ATP, and NADP+. The outputs are oxygen gas, ATP, and NADPH. These reactions capture sunlight and turn it into usable energy in the form of ATP and NADPH. Let's break down the light-dependent reactions more carefully. First, light hits photosystem 2. This excites electrons in the chlorophyll. These high-energy electrons are passed to the electron transport chain. And to replace those electrons, water is split. Splitting the water produces electrons, H+ ions, and oxygen gas. The electrons travel through the electron transport chain between PS2 and PS1. As they move, energy is used to pump H+ ions from the stroma into the thylakoid space. This builds a proton gradient. In PS1, the electrons are re-energized by another photon of light. The newly energized electrons are picked up by NADP+, which combines with an H+ ions to form NADPH, which is an energy-rich electron carrier. Meanwhile, the H+ gradient that was built powers the ATP synthase. This is an enzyme that synthesizes ATP from ADP as H+ ions flow back into the stroma. Now let's look at the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle happens in the stroma, that's the fluid around the thylakoids, and it uses ATP and NADPH from the light reactions, plus CO2 from the air to build G3P. There are three phases. Carbon fixation is when carbon dioxide joins RUBP to make a 3-carbon molecule. Reduction is when ATP and NADPH are used to convert it into G3P. Regeneration is when some G3P helps rebuild RUBP to keep the cycle going. And since G3P is a 3-carbon molecule and glucose is a 6-carbon molecule, the cycle has to run twice to build one full glucose molecule. Alright, here's the big picture again. Light reactions happen in the thylakoid membrane. They make ATP and NADPH. The Calvin cycle happens in the stroma. It uses that energy and CO2 to make sugar. Oxygen comes from water and not water is split and not from CO2 or any other places. So here are some tricky but important facts. As I said, oxygen comes from water splitting. It's not from CO2 or other reactions. And the final electron acceptor in a light reaction is NADP+, which combines with an H+ ions to become NADPH. And even though Calvin cycle is called light independent and doesn't use light directly, it cannot keep running forever in the dark since it needs the ATP and NADPH from the light reactions. And the thylakoids are like little pancake stacks. The reactions happen on their membrane, and the stroma is the fluid space around them where the Calvin cycle occurs. So now let's test your understanding. Here is a little photosynthesis quiz. You can pause and try to answer them. Here are the answer keys. Okay, that's it, photosynthesis. I hope this helps clear things up. If it did, give this video a like, subscribe, and comment if you want me to cover other topics next. Okay, see you next time.